Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we are going to take a look at the Buck Knives 104 Compadre. Well, if you looked real quick, you might think this is the Buck Knives 104 Compadre, but I can tell you this definitely is not. This is the SK Blades Frontier. Now Silver Knights Blades has a relationship with Buck, where they create buck knives to their own specifications. Now this is not the first time we've taken a look at a blade from SK Blades. In fact, in the past we looked at this SK Blades Inferno. Now this here, the Inferno, is built on the Marksman platform, and this is just a gorgeous knife. Now I liked this so much that I actually bought my little guy an SK Blades model. So this here is the Shield. Now each one of these blades being pretty much the same as their stock Buck counterpart. However, there are some significant differences. Like for example, the handle color, the handle materials, some of the subtleties, even the blade steel. But in this case, with the SK Blades Frontier, there are actually some very significant differences. Now this video here today is a first look and impressions video of this knife, and in full disclosure, it may very well be the only time you see this on my channel. It's hard to say, but I did receive this knife from the Apex Pass-Around. So before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to David, who is the administrator of the Apex Pass-Around, for getting this out to me. And beyond that, David is also the host of the YouTube and Instagram social media channel Blade Banter. Beyond that, he's also a representative for QSP Knives. So David, thank you very much. Now at this point, I have a bunch to talk to you about with this SK Blades Frontier. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. So as I mentioned, here we have the SK Blades Frontier. Now again, modeled after the Compadre. So if you go and look at Buck 104 Compadre models, there are a couple of them. Now generally speaking, they are in 5160 spring steel. They have a hollow ground blade. They have a couple of different coatings and a couple of different handle materials. But here with the Frontier, the very first thing you're going to see is that this is a fully flat ground blade. Now to me, that's a huge upgrade. Personally, I don't typically like a hollow ground blade for something that's going to be a hard use wilderness knife. And if you know anything about Outer Limitless, I definitely like this size of a blade range to be a hard use woodscraft tool. Generally for me, I like to use knives of this size for a good all-around camp knife. So to have a knife that's a full flat grind versus a hollow grind, in my opinion, is a big advantage. Now you might say, well, it's not going to slice quite so nice as a hollow grind. I say that's bull. This thing is absolutely a slicer. Now at this point, I am going to roll in some footage. Now in full disclosure, because this knife is part of the Apex Pass-Around, I can't really use this to my full capabilities. I would love to go batoning this down and through some wood, use it to process a full fire, do a bunch of scraping and all the usual tests. However, this knife will be going to one of the people within the Apex Pass-Around for final ownership, and I just can't beat this up quite so much. But the good news is I was able to do some basic tasks. So this knife, again, is just a beautiful slicer. Has a slight recurve, nice belly, beautiful drop point design, good overall blade length, and for a camp knife and something you're going to be using to process some food, it definitely worked wonderfully. So this SK Blades Frontier with a 4.5 inch blade length, D2 tool steel, and the renowned BOS heat treat. So for me, and I guess I could go either way, D2, in my opinion, is definitely an upgrade. Now, I greatly enjoy D2. Some people are going to say it's a little bit chippy. Yes, D2 can be chippy. However, If properly heat treated, it is an amazing steel. That is the reason why, for me personally, with my knives and my designs, I did start with D2 tool steel. It's a great option, and where you have on this Frontier the BOS heat treat, you will not go wrong. Now, 5160 on the standard model and a spring steel is obviously going to be a great choice for the wilderness application. However, I do also think that you lose a little bit of its overall strength and potential edge retention, and maybe even have some destruction on that hollow grind. So to me, having the full flat ground D2 BOS heat treated steel on this 4.5 inch Frontier, absolutely sweet. So as you can see with some of the field use footage, basic carving tasks. Now, apart from the overall food prep, which I think is a great way to use this knife, you definitely can get into some good processing of wood. So for me, again, because I couldn't use this in super hard tasks, I did also want to get a good feel for the edge of the blade. So using it here, you'll see very controlled. What I have found is if I get a knife with a great grind geometry and that perfect edge angle, I can really control my carving to the point where I can literally pinpoint little edges on the wood and just send the shavings directly at the camera. So here you can see as I'm carving through this piece of wood, time and time again, sending the little shavings and carvings directly at the lens. That's just a testament to the overall blade shape and edge geometry on this Frontier. But then moving forward into some more delicate tasks, I always like to try some feathers. So getting into it here and really putting the knife to the edge of the wood, carving down also easily, getting a good feel for the overall, not only edge of the knife, but the spine. When you're using a knife in this particular fashion, you really do bear down on the jimping. Now this knife does have very nice jimping. If you look here, it's very subtle. It's not overly done. In fact, it's reasonably mild and it feels excellent. There's just a little bit of a ramp so that your thumb indexes on that just so perfectly. And the shape and size of this handle is great. So as I was getting into the carving tasks and just working down through the wood, between that excellent edge geometry, my ability to find the edge and just run the knife so comfortably down the wood, you'll see by the end of this, I came away with some very nice fine shavings. And that speaks to the handle. This here being this beautiful natural micarta. I love this handle. It feels absolutely great. And what I like the best about this micarta is it really strikes the balance between sort of a slick handle and a ridiculously grippy handle. It's this like perfect sweet spot right in the middle. So it feels comfortable. It's not going to leave hot spots. Everything is nicely sculpted and rounded. All the bolts nicely recessed. Perfect lanyard hole. Nice and comfortable on the back of that grip. And as you look here, if you were doing some stabbing tasks, which I do often like to do with my wilderness blades and my camp knives, that is just comfortable. Feels good, nicely rounded, no hot spots, good positive lockup. Again, that's going to be very important, is having a good positive lockup. So where you have a little bit of a guard here, just enough meat to really matter, perfect indexing and a great traction on these micarta scales. I have to say this knife feels really good in the hands. So as you look at these handle scales, this is considered to be burlap micarta and it is bead blasted. So that's what gives you that grippy feel. It's just exposing the fibers on the side of the knife here. So the top is slightly smoothed. I would say just sanded and a little bit polished. But on the flats, that's that exposed bead blasted burlap micarta. Now, for me personally, I also used burlap micarta on my TFK T17. However, when you look up close, it's not bead blasted. It's actually very smooth. Now, we did decide on my particular scales to go with a textured, I would say contoured and textured finish, machined, but the actual burlap itself is not bead blasted. So in this particular case, It is a little more slick. However, I do get the texture with that machining, but there is a big advantage to having the exposed fibers on that bead blasted burlap micarta. Very nice. But now just to go through the final details on this SK Blades Frontier. Overall, beautiful fit and finish. Everything just machined ever so nicely, perfect to the tang of the knife. But then when you get to that spine, nice and square. Now, it's not like overly square. I would say it is perfectly square, where it's not going to bother you if you're trying to do some push cuts or anything like that. However, it is definitely sharp enough to really shower some sparks with a ferro rod or even scraping some bark. Now, the other thing that I greatly like to do with my camp knives is really scrape and fluff out some fat wood. So having that nice sharp spine and something that's going to work on that heavily candied and just hard fat wood, that's going to work really nice. And it's sharpened all the way down that drop point, so you could really get on the tip of the knife, scrape everything out really nice, get some fluff, and then boom, shower it with some sparks with your ferro rod. Now, the standard model Buck Compadre does come with a leather sheath. However, this SK Blades Frontier comes with an upgraded sheath. Very nice, slim profile, high quality sheath from Hickman Saddlery. This is just an absolutely gorgeous piece. And when you look here, just almost clicks in like a Kydex in a way. I'm not going to say it's fully wet formed, but this is partially formed. Just beautiful. Has a gorgeous welt. Nicely formed. Great little belt loop. Now, looking up close, and sometimes you can tell if leather is machine stitched. Part of me thinks it might be, but the other part of me thinks this may be hand stitched. And the only reason why I say that is you can't see any marks from the foot of the machine. And looking real close, I mean, really hard to tell, but these stitches are just so tight that they could be machine stitched, they could be hand stitched. I can't tell, but either way, just a beautiful slimline package. The color on the sheath, just beautiful, matching perfectly with that burlap micarta, and just rounds this out to a great little package. Comfortable for camp tasks, comfortable for skinning, hunting, any sort of general field use, this blade is definitely going to get it done. So alright guys, again, I'd like to say thank you very much to David from Blade Banter, QSP Knives, and the Apex Pass Around. And for all of you who are watching, thank you very much for checking this out. I think this is a great knife for most people. Good overall value, that Buck warranty, BOS heat treat, excellent D2 tool steel, great grind, awesome handles, nice sheath, just one complete package. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.